The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall, he said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do what he has, but he is a shocking person on that. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-Viv.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. Commissioner Stubbs here again, and you will notice it is obviously a solo edition today. Well, you might not notice because there's no... Oops, sorry about that on my iPad. There's no cameras on because Chris isn't joining us today. He's busy, but that's okay. It's obviously hard to make our schedules line up every single week of the LOC calendar. My webcam is not playing ball, as you've probably noticed on the last couple of episodes where it would keep freezing. So no video today, but we're going to do a solo pod. It's going to be good. I'm going to link it in the chat so you can actually watch it live if you want to, or obviously you can listen back to it later. And as the episode suggests, we are heading into week 10 of the 2022 LOC and NFL season. We are really getting to the business end of the season now, and all the while, you know, the weather in the UK is hanging up in the double-digit degrees as well, which is very unseasonable, but it's still quite nice. You know what else is unseasonable? The absolute fire temperature of the games we saw there in week 9. So we'll go and start it off with the marquee matchup that we had last week, which was the Dream Team against Bare Necessities. The Dream Team took on Bare Necessities here in Week 9 in the marquee matchup. Bare Necessities coming back off of a win, looking to stay as the highest scoring team in the league, taking on the Dream Team who had a resurgent few weeks to pull them back into the mix, entering this one 3-5, looking to really pull themselves back into the playoff race, but it didn't quite happen for Viv, unfortunately, as Bare Necessities took this one, you can see 90-56. Looking down the lineups for Bare Necessities, Lamar Jackson had an okay day at 19 points. AJ Brown got 12 points, quite the come down from his 3-touchdown performance the week before. Austin Eckler got 17, Damian Pierce got 14. The Seahawks D got 12 points en route to that team effort, 90 points, which is okay, and was enough to be the Dream Team on the day, where the Dream Team had 21 points from Joe Burrow, and no other player in double digits. Only a couple of guys really over 5 points as well. Jason Myers, the kicker, at 8, and Stephon Diggs at 9. So a day to forget for Viv, unfortunately, after he had a really good last few weeks there. So he drops this one. That drops him to 3-6 overall, moving Bare Necessities to 6-3. It's a 2-game win streak for them now and a 2-game loss streak for Viv. In the history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are now 11-9 against the Dream Team. Yeah, so let's start with Bare Necessities. So they've obviously been the highest scoring team of the season up till this point anyway. Not the best of days by their accounts, but look, we always say 90 points is kind of what you're aiming for here in the LOC. That's going to give you, if you break it down to averages, if you say you got 20 from your QB and average 10 points with every other position, I think that gets you to 90. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that gets you to 90. That's kind of what you're looking for. That's kind of a par score. And that was exactly what Bare Necessities got this week, and as we know, it was enough to get them the win. Lamar Jackson, he's not been firing really for about a month now. He had a good start of the season, but he really has dropped down a bit of late. But you know, when your quarterback gets 19 points, it's not going to kill you. And that's his bad days typically, right? When you have these rushing quarterbacks, as we'll see in some other matchups later on, the difference between a bad day with those kind of quarterbacks rushing quarterbacks, and the ones that don't is starkly different in terms of points. So that is your floor, and that's what has really helped Bare Necessities so far this season. AJ Brown, another solid day at 12 points. He's been a rock solid player for them. Austin Eckler, he's had an absolutely great month and a bit now with the 17 points, and Damian Pierce as well. Surely one of the draft picks of the season. Took a little while to get going, but he's been really good. Really for pretty much a couple of months now. Playing against a tough Philly defense, they were missing Jordan Davis, which was a large part of their run defense, but still had a nice day there, and the Seahawks D tidying over the 12 points there as well. Leonard Fournette and Chris Godwin, the Bucs really are starting to become the Achilles heel, I think, of Bare Necessities. This is a Bucs team that is not able to run the ball that well, and Chris Godwin I think he's probably still making his way back from that knee injury. He's probably not quite his full self. But again, with the O-line not being as good as they have been previously, it's really impacting his ability to produce. His underlying metrics are really not that good. He's not had many or any touchdowns yet, I think, which doesn't help. But yeah, that's really what's cost him. So Ben Assisties, solid day, get the win. Move on to the Dream Team. I hate to say, I really did kind of predict this one for Viv's team last week when we were reviewing this. Chris wasn't quite as pessimistic on the Dream Team as I was, but I just kind of saw with Jamar Chase being injured, obviously he was down Mike Williams from the week before as well, didn't have Gus Edwards this week as well. And that impacts on Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase being outright. I just saw that, the points that this team was scoring, the really high ceiling they had shown. I just couldn't see a way that they would replicate that. I think 56 points still is a bad day despite that. You've got guys like Stephon Diggs, he only got 9 points. DJ Moore, he's been really resurgent, or had a few really resurgent games lately. He only gets 2 points in this one. But the injuries really what cost Viv here, because you're playing guys like Allen Robinson, DeAndre Carter, and Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Those 3 guys combined for less than 10 points, nothing on the bench because it's all buys and injuries for Viv. That's obviously... You can't necessarily say that's where they lost it, because there was a 35-point difference here, right? But that's certainly what contributed to making this not a close game in such a poor week for Viv. Special teams had an okay day, but again, it's these kind of things. They all kind of tend to happen on the same week sometimes, and that conspires to push your points down. Joe Burrow actually had a decent day, 21 points, not going to kill you. Obviously doesn't make it up for the shortfall in this game. But he did have a bit of a softer matchup against Carolina, so we'll see what he does going forward. So yeah, tough day for Viv, but Ben Assisties rolls on. We'll get on to our next game here, which was Tom's Tyrants against the Napolitans. 2 teams with a losing record looking to keep up in the playoff race for Napolitans. They very much have to do it probably by the wild card, whereas for Tom's Tyrants, despite entering this game at 1-7, still had a very clear route to winning their division. And it's still a fairly clear route, but they did lose this one, so it does make it a little bit harder. While Napolitans do pull themselves towards maybe making a late season push. The score in this one, 102-69. That makes Napolitans from 5-0 on a 2-game win streak and drops Tom's Tyrants to 1-8. Starting on the Napolitan side of the ball, Jalen Hurts had a solid day on Thursday Night Football with 23 points. Tyreek Hill had a great day with 20 points. Christian Kirk, 14. He had a comeback game. Ramondre Stevenson with 13 of the Dolphins defense with 11 points. So a good solid day there to get to the 102. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, yep, 69, not the best of days. The spot start of Deion Jackson, he got injured in the game, unfortunately. He only finished with 3.6 points. Tom Brady got 17 points. Again, an okay day, but yeah, that's kind of what Brady's been all season, really. Miles Sanders got 15 points. No other players over 10 points, though, which cost obviously Tom's Tyrants an opportunity to win this one. So the history of this matchup all time is now 1-1, yeah, between the two, with Napolitans leveling the series. And yeah, Napolitans, they're one of these odd teams. They've had a hard rub of it because they're in a really tough division. That's certainly contributed to the 4-5 record that they have. But the overall team isn't that bad. Jalen Hurts and Tyreek Hill, obviously rock solid. They're delivering here again in this game. And then guys like Christian Kirk, where they had a good start of the season, they dropped off quite a bit late. These are the kind of guys that Napolitans need to come through for them to, have these kind of days. Ramondre Stevenson, he's been a great pick for Dave as well. Dolphins did get in your 11 points. That's solid. You look to some other guys, though, like T. Higgins, only getting 6 points, especially with Jamar Chase out of the lineup. You'd be expecting more there, but better days are probably ahead, even if Chase comes back into the lineup or he doesn't. He's supposed to start Juju in this one. Again, Juju's had a good run of it of late, gets 9 points. It's not something that's going to kill you. It's not a big day. So again, once again, just a solid team effort there for Dave. You look to the bench. Not really much to speak of. They are a top-heavy team. Even with Najee Harris on a bye, I'm not even sure that's the worst thing for Napolitans, to be quite honest with you. I think he can probably make higher upside plays. And the team this week showed that. I mean, the floor of your skill player is 6 points. That's pretty ideal, right? If your floor of a skill player is 6 points, you know the other guys are going to have a fairly solid day and bring it home with the quarterback and the special teams. That's exactly what you got. And then you go to the other side of the board with Tom's Tyrants, who I've been saying all season long, they are better than their record suggests. That I'm not going to stand here and say that they're a great team or a good team, but they have certainly been better than a 1-8 record. It was good to see them get the win last week. I said last week, by the way, going to the game, me and Chris picked my dad to win. I locked my dad to win, so nailing that right off the bat. Me and Chris did both pick Neapolitans to win in this one. I did say that I could see Tom's Tyrants having a potential route to it. I still believe that. Look, Tom's Tyrants was missing a fair amount of players. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's still out. Brandon and I are going to buy. And he had a conundrum at quarterback all week as well. 69 points. Given the kind of players he was playing, Isaiah Likely, Deion Jackson. If it was just a tough day at the end, right? The Bucks connection is going to drive a lot of what Tom's does, much like better necessities Tom's Tyrants does. Tom Brady with 17 points. You would have been hoping for a better day. You might see that this week. We'll come on to that a bit later. Mike Evans as well. He's been fairly solid, only getting 4 points here as well. Those guys are two of Tom's probably best players, to be fair to it, out of the group that was available for this game last week at least. I love the Isaiah Likely stream. He did pay it off on one catch, but that's all it takes. 8.4 points. Solid. Raheem Mostert. He was really affected by Jeff Wilson coming to the Dolphins. Raheem Mostert had been really good for Tom and the Dolphins ever since he really took over that lead back role. Obviously, the Dolphins traded for Jeff Wilson before the deadline, and I don't think anyone would have predicted, especially so soon, him basically making that a split backfield. He actually got more work than Raheem Mostert on this game, and Mostert only got 26 yards, the touchdown, saving his day really as well. So that's definitely a worry for Tom going forward. But Miles Sanders has been solid, and again, the special team's not delivering anything on the day as well. So a bit of a bad day for Tom's Tyrants, but as I say, they're still in it in terms of the playoff race, so they could certainly make some waves going forward and perhaps a late push to the playoffs. So that's your recap for that one. Me and Chris both picked Neapolitans on that one, so we got that one right. Starting off the week 2 for 2, we'll go to the next game now. Overcooked, which was Ross's team, took on Ixan here in week 9 of the 2022 LOC season. Ross residing in the Winchester division. Maybe against them you would have been hoping for a better day, but it didn't just quite come off. Cooper Kupp solid as always, 18 points. DK Metcalf, as I say. Tyler Lockett's probably the better option, but he still gets you 10 points in this one. It's not going to kill you. We'll skip over the next one. David Montgomery, 4.4 points again. He's been really inefficient, not great all year long for Ross and the Bears. Unfortunately, Khalil Herbert has been the better running back for them. Gabe Davis as well. He's been a very boom or bust kind of guy, and he had a bust week on this one. But then again, you look at the special teams. This is what really actually did keep Ross in the game here. Ryan Suckup netting off Justin Tucker with his 12 points. But it was the Patriots D against Sam Ellinger home against Indianapolis. 33 points. That's reminiscent of when Phil had the Patriots D those few years ago, and they were basically as good as in RB1. 33 points on the day. Ben made it known that he was pretty salty if he was going to lose to that. But, it does happen. These defenses do have these great days sometimes, and that did nearly give Ross the win in this one. Robert Woods, though, completely letting the side down. And to be honest, if I'm going to be hypercritical of Ross, I think it's his own fault. We saw what Malik Willis was playing against the Texans for Tennessee a week ago. They were just practically running the ball the whole time. I think he only just about attempted double-digit passes. The same was the case here for Kansas City. And the problem with Tennessee is it's not like, okay, you've got one receiver like Robert Woods vacuuming up all the targets. The targets are pretty spread amongst everyone. So when you've got that really low passing volume, combined with a receiver that's not getting much of a share of the target volume here, this is absolutely what cost Ross' team that donut. You play Hunter Henry or Dallas Goedert, who I think you have to over Robert Woods, to be quite honest, and Ross gets the win here. So that's just the impact of Ross's laissez-faire style. It is what it is. So they're at 2-7, still only one game behind in the division, as we'll see in a bit, and Ixan get back on the win bus at 8-1. We'll go to the next game then, which was the Waypoint Bowl. Sorry, the Gold Star Bowl. Bucking the trend took on Forge Flyers here in Week 9. Both of these teams are looking to keep up in the playoff race. Forge Flyers were leading the division entering this one at 6-2. Meanwhile, Bucking the Trend looking to keep up in the wildcard race at 5-3. Bucking the Trend do take the Gold Star Bowl bragging rights this time round, winning this one 71-63. Looking down the lineups, Tua, who, as Chris said last week, has been probably the best Mr. Irrelevant we've ever seen, delivering 29 points here. Josh Jacobs gets 8.9, and the Bucks D with 12. No other players over 10 points there. Romeo Dobbs did get injured in this one as well, only getting 2 points, but it was enough to avoid the loss for Mike's team. On the other side of the board for Forge Flyers, Kyler Murray had an okay day, 22 points, Jaden Waddle 15 points, and the Vikings D 10 points. No other players there over 10 points, in fact only one over 5. So yeah, a day to forget for Chris's team, but he's been pretty solid all year long. He is 6-3 now. We'll see what that means in terms of the division in a bit. Buck in the Trend moves to 6-3, and the history of this matchup all time. Forge Flyers are now 3-2 against Buck in the Trend, so Mike's making that one a little bit closer. So yeah, if we start with Mike's team here, like, you can't really go too much into this one. It was a couple of low-scoring teams. Tua had a great day. He's firmly back from obviously his injury issues earlier in the season now with that 29 points. Amon St. Brown only 5.5 here. He's obviously had to struggle to stay healthy. A bit of a disappointing game in this one, but better days are going to be ahead. Romeo Dobbs obviously suffering the high ankle sprain in the game against Detroit. Could have potentially had a nice day. Aaron Rodgers sure needed him, as we saw in hindsight, as he had a rough day. Trying to pass against one of the softest pass defenses in the league, but they did just fire their defensive coordinator. I did have a feeling there might have been a different, ethos or approach to the game as a result of that. That may have been the case. But yeah, Romeo Dobbs not doing great in this one. Josh Jacobs, he obviously was absolutely fire for a few weeks back there. Only 8.9 points in this one. It's not going to kill you, and it did help get Mike the win in this one, obviously. But you'd like to think better days are ahead, but boy, this Raiders team does just seem bad at the moment. So it is one to watch out for Mike's team, as is DeAndre Swift, his first round pick. He's obviously had a good start to the season. Then he picked up a couple of injuries. It's really hampered him. They're not giving him the full workload as they want him to stay healthy. And actually, even more worrying, it sounds like they're not quite as happy with his running style. If you watch Hard Knocks, they were really trying to teach him to run harder, to really be quite aggressive. He's a bit more of an elusive back, so he's wanting to avoid the contact a bit there. And then maybe that's just not well meshing with what they want. Obviously, he's carrying those knocks as well. And yeah, Jamal Williams is just getting more of the work, so that is really a worry for bucking the trend. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire here as well. Only 2 points on the day. That Chiefs backfield is firmly a three-headed monster now that is bizarrely being led by Jerick McKinnon, of all people, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is clearly fallen out of favour despite the strong start that he had to the season. Mike probably regretting not trying to offload him when he had the chance. But the special teams, pretty much what saved the day or made the difference here for Mike. They combined for 19 points versus Chris's 14 points. Will Lutz with the 7 and the Bucks D against the Rams with the 12 points. And then nothing on the bench there, as we know. Mike has really been struggling with injury all season long, as was the case again with Romeo Dobbs. And he also had quite a few guys in a bye week. Looking at Chris's team here. So Kyler Murray had a solid day. He's obviously not been a spectacular guy this year, but he's not really been a guy that's let Chris down. That was the case here, but he did pick up a hamstring injury, so that's definitely one to watch out for going forward. Jalen Waddle, 15 points. Again, he's just been solid. But then, Chris unfortunately was just in complete bye week hell. Excuse me. You can see that every single player on the bench on bye there. So he had to get pretty creative with his choices. He was playing guys like Kadarius Toney, Gerald Everett, and Chase Claypool. I love it. I love the boldness from Chris. Playing those lottery pick guys. I think it's shown in fantasy football. If you go for the high upside guys, it's better than playing for a safety floor kind of guy. It pays off more often than not. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay off in this one. Kadarius Toney, obviously only just being with the Chiefs for a short amount of time. Quite a lot of mouths to feed in that offense as well. So he only got 1.2 in this one. Gerald Everett was a bit of a disappointment, I'd say. As we know, the Chargers were missing Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And so against the soft Atlanta defense as well, we've been expecting him to do more. I think he got quite a lot of targets and catches, but that only translated to 36 yards. So again, that doesn't help. And then Chase Claypool as well. Again, he's a guy that's only just got traded to the Bears. I think he was playing probably quite a limited number of snaps there, only getting 1.7 despite the high scoring game as well. Just didn't pan out for Chris. Commend him for doing it, which didn't quite work. Alvin Kamara, though, you could probably point to him as more the reason why they lost this game. Only 6.2 points against a fairly good Baltimore defense, but you you know, he would have only needed 8 points more. 14 points would be a par for the course day for Alvin Kamara normally. So yeah, it did cost him in this one. So unfortunate for Chris. We split our picks on this one. So Chris picked himself, I picked Mike, so I got that one. But we both picked Ross in the previous game to cover that off as well, which I'm not really sure we can call that a loss because it was basically a tie, but yeah, it did just about go the other way. So we'll go on to our next game of the week now, which was the Ollie Bowl. UR Gold took on Bidernators here in Week 9 of the 2022 LOC season. UR Gold perhaps looking to take a step ahead in the division, depending what happened with Pakistan at 3-6. Bidernators, they have had an absolutely resurgent last month and a bit to their season after starting so poorly. They've been just dropping points left, right and centre since then. 2 on the trot they had in the win column, and they extended that to 3 here, 134 to 51. Looking down the lineups for the Detonators, Justin Fields, real smart pickup by him. Obviously, Ollie had Russell Wilson to start the year, completely reversed his fortunes with his QB choices. 49 points for him. DeAndre Hopkins got 10, again, another solid draft pick that paid off in the long run, stashing him on the IR while he was suspended. Derrick Henry, 24 points. Again, slow start of the season for him. Well done, staying with the course on him. Travis Etienne, again, a real good pick there, 25. And then the Bengals D, 10 points. So real good day for the Detonators, 134 points. Was not the high point on the week, though, we'll see in a bit. On the other side of the board for UR Gold, they've shown some pluck at times, but yeah, this game was not plucky at all by their standards. 51 points, not a great day. Matthew Stafford only with the 12 points as it transpires after the fact as well, did suffer a concussion in that game. Dalvin Cook 12 points, Jamal Williams 10 points, only one other player over 6 points, which was the kicker there, Carlos Santos. So yeah, day to forget for them. Then are 3-6, but Detonators moved to 6-3, and the history of this matchup all time, but Detonators are now 7-3 against UR Gold. So I kind of covered it off for Detonators there as it was going. They've had a number of guys come into the fold that they've just absolutely nailed, standing by some of their draft picks that started the season poorly as well. What more can you say? I think it's more interesting that actually the shortfall guys in this one. Chris Olave, again, he's been one of the picks of the season for Ollie's team, a late round draft pick, when Michael Thomas has obviously missed much of the year, and Jarvis Landry via injury. He only got 7 in this one, but you know, running back for the Panthers. So only 2 points in this one. So yeah, carrying 2 guys that combined for less than 10 points. Yeah, just 1, 3, 4. What can you say? Ollie's just had a great period of time. You look at the bench as well. He's got Geno Smith. He's scoring solid points. Michael Carter as well. Obviously, at the moment, is kind of the lead back. It's obviously a bit more of a split back with James Robinson, but he has the lion's share since Breece Hall went down with injury, which again was another Ollie pick, and what was doing absolutely well before he got injured as well. So yeah, great day at the office for Ollie Bedette. Ollie Garner-Beddoes, however, yeah, he'll be going back to the drawing board once again. Quarterback still doesn't have an answer for it. Jared Goff not much better on the bench. He could have been a guy that added Justin Fields, you know, that's all it would have taken. And I don't think that quite would have flipped the result in this one. Obviously, it would have depended on what Ollie would have played himself. But you know, it makes UR Gold that much better. He really needs to get this QB situation or get the streamers right each week because it's really killing him. But it's not helping that the team around it just isn't that great. Either Dalvin Cook hasn't really lived up to his lofty, you know, top end first round price tag. He has been good, but this Vikings team has been a bit more of a passing team. 12 points on the day, not going to kill you. Jamal Williams, he's been a really good pickup to be fair to Ollie, because he has effectively been the lead back for the Lions for quite some time now and has delivered some good results from over that. But it's everything else behind that. Aaron Jones, he's a guy that the usage just hasn't been there. The Packers obviously haven't been as effective as they were in previous seasons. Only 5 points in this one. Michael Pittman has obviously suffered with the quarterback carousel they've had in Indy there this year. Only 2 points in this one. And then Tyler Boyd, jury's out on him. You would think he does better now with Jamar Chase being out injured. Didn't quite happen in this one. Only 4.4 points here, but maybe going forward it's a bit better. You look to the bench as well, not really much there at all to speak of. Brandon Cooks missed this one as well, but again, he's been pretty bad for them this season. I might even go as far as saying he's been a bust so far this season. And then you look at the special teams, not really getting much done there either. Only 6 points from the Bears kicker there. And I think me and Chris said last week, real perplexing choice here to go with the Bears defense against the white hot Miami offense. Only 1 point, so predictable. Obviously doesn't cost them the game in this one, but these things start to add up, especially when you're in a division where it's really so close in terms of the win columns. You need to be getting these points because the points do count effectively as an extra win when it comes to week 14, week 15, and whether you get into the playoffs or not. Yeah, so just Ollie needs to really go back to the drawing board. Trade deadline's obviously passed. He can't do anything on that front. So yeah, he needs to do something here. Me and Chris both picked Ollie and Badet in this one. Badet is, so yeah, we both nailed that one. We'll go on to our last game of the week then. Gridiron Gang took on Pakistan here in week 9. Both teams looking to make some waves in the division. If Pat won this one, he could have taken a step further ahead in terms of wins in the Winchester division. Meanwhile, for Gridiron Gang, were previously leading the division with the Forge Fly's loss. That opened the window. They just needed to outscore the Detonators and they could reclaim the title in the division. And that's exactly what they did as they won this one, 142 to 98. Pakistan drops from 3-5 to 3-6. Meanwhile, Gridiron Gang moves from 5-3 to 6-3. That's 3 on the trot drop now for Pat, unfortunately though. Starting off with Gridiron Gang, Josh Allen having a bit of a rough day in the Meadowlands against the Jets, only 23 points, and obviously as we know now transpires that he did injure his elbow a little bit there at the end of the game. Travis Kelce with 11. Joe Mixon, story of the day though, 51 points, just an incredible day, nearly the highest points by a skill position we've ever seen in the LOC. Only fell a couple points short there, I think, of Alvin Kamara in the Corona Bowl when Ross had him. Just a tremendous day for Joe Mixon there. Josh Palmer, 11 points. Kenneth Walker, Gridiron Gang had both the RB1 and RB2 on the week last week, I believe. He got 25 points as well. The special teams chipping in there just to get them to the highest score of the week at that 142. For Pat, I really feel for Pat in this one because he didn't have a bad week. 98 points. Justin Herbert gets him 14. Justin Jefferson gets him 19. Cordero Patterson 17. Devontae Adams had a blow day with 27. And the Cubs with 12. But obviously they just ran into a buzzsaw. They would have beaten most, over half, I think, of the other teams in the league last week. Just unfortunate that they faced me. The history of this one now, Gridiron Gang are 8-2 all time against Pakistan. So yeah, we'll start on my side of the board. So what can you say about Joe Mixon? 5 touchdowns on the day, obviously, to go with a boatload of yardage, 51 points. You know, if I plug someone else in, you know, like Alan Lazard or whatever on the bench, I still would have won this one despite that. But just an absolutely tremendous day. Really helped offset some of what Pat was doing, which we'll come on to a bit later. He's not been the best first round pick so far. In fact, he's been quite mediocre, I would say, on that front. He's not really had a lot of touchdowns either, so this game kind of making up for the regression all in one. Not really how that typically happens, but certainly did here. You pair him with, as I say, Kenneth Walker, 25 points on the day as well, RB2, who obviously was that free agent ad by me, the $113 man, or however much it was that I spent on him. He's been worth every bit of the money that I paid for him. I do not care that I basically tripled nearly the next highest score because it was completely worth it. I'd have been absolutely kicking myself if I missed out on him because I didn't do that and didn't get him. So yeah, those two really combined to have a great day for me. Josh Allen, obviously, and this is what I was going back to earlier. We look at Josh Allen and Justin Herbert here. Again, it's not a difference in the game, but this is really the difference between the quarterbacks that run and the quarterbacks that don't. Josh Allen, objectively, had a really bad game against the Jets. They were really making things difficult on him. He only got 205 pass yards, 2 interceptions, no passing touchdowns. He rushed for 86 and 2, and that completely offsets it. And then you look at the other side of the board, Justin Herbert in a good matchup against Atlanta. Granted, he didn't have all his weapons, but he only gets 14 points. He doesn't have that rushing floor that Josh Allen does, and that is really the difference in what you see between some quarterbacks, certainly in the NFL and in the LOC. Elsewhere, Travis Kelce, he got 11 points here, solid day. Josh Palmer, again, he got 11 points too. Special teams nearly getting 10 apiece as well. So a good day all around for Gridiron Gang. Hopefully more to come. Obviously came off a loss the week before as well. So good to get back on the winning side of the board. And as I say, Alan Lazard on the bench, they're getting 15 as well. And then we go to Pakistan. So yeah, I really feel for Pat. I really do, because he's had some really bad weeks. Some things have gone against him. It's not all been firing this season. Chris obviously said last week that he wants to keep picking Pat's team because on paper it looks great, and then it just disappoints. It's kind of beaten the optimism out of him. He actually has a great day in this one. When this one started in Justin Jefferson rattled out of the gate. He ended up with 19, and Devontae Adams obviously having a blow-up day with 27 as well. Cordarrelle Patterson coming back from his injury, real boost to Patterson, I think, here, and really will help him going forward. He gets 17 here as well. I thought I was in real hot water. Look at the start of this game after the in the Sunday window. It was neck and neck for so long. It was just obviously that I had the plays coming after. Pat had a great day starting out. It kind of fizzled out a bit. As I say, Justin Herbert, he only got 14 points. Devontae Smith, 2. He's been a bit volatile in that Eagles offense, as they're not the most pass-heavy. Jacoby Myers only gets 2 here as well. Younghoe Kid with 5, and the Colts D with 12. So it's good to see Pat's key guys really firing, though, because he's got Ezekiel Elliott, who's coming back at some point. Curtis Samuel, who can be a guy that he can spot start. George Kittle, which I loved that ad. We mentioned that last week. I think he'll be good for Pat. So going forward, I think they've set themselves up well. Really frustrating for Pat to, like I say, face me in this particular week, though, because he would have beaten some teams around the league and would have taken a step forward in the division. But that's how it goes sometimes. So that's all of the Week 9 games recap then. So myself and Chris picked myself to win in this one, so we got that one right. And then just going back to the last game, we both picked Ollie to win that one as well. And Chris locked Ollie, so I think I was 5-1 on the week, and I think Chris was 4-2, which means I'm 43 and 35 all time in the pick'em. Chris is 42 and 23. We both got a lock, so I'm back to 500 now. Finally, 7-7. Meanwhile, Chris, he's at 0.667. Look at him, 8 and 4. Great result for him. So we'll go on to the league news now. So, starting with key injuries, Josh Allen, as I mentioned there, he suffered a UCL sprain in his elbow. I think that's alteral collateral ligament, something. I don't know. It's something baseball players get as well. It's what they call the Tommy John surgery. It's not as common an injury for NFL quarterbacks. I think Matthew Stafford might have been suffering the same one in the off-season there. Kind of really unclear, because he suffered the injury in the game, then throws the longest air yards pass, like a 60-70 yard pass, which was an absolute bullet as well, by the way, right after injuring his elbow. Crazy, but I guess adrenaline, can carry through and do that kind of stuff. Didn't practice a great deal this week. There was some fun and games about spotting him practicing and things like that. The biggest tidbit, I guess, is last night they didn't elevate Matt Barkley to the roster, so they're only carrying 2 QBs, so that would seem to suggest he's obviously going to play. We don't know if he's going to start, but it's definitely one to watch out for my team, obviously, because he's been a big part of my success so far this season. For backing the trend, Darren Waller, he obviously traded for Darren Waller whilst he was coming back from that hamstring injury, suffered an aggravation, and he is now on IR and will miss at least the next 4 games. Romeo Dobbs, as well, as we mentioned in the recap there, suffered a high ankle sprain for bucking the trend, and so he's going to be out for a while as well. Looking at transactions, just a couple of interesting ones I picked out this week. So we had Jeff Wilson being added by bucking the trend for said Darren Waller for $11. And I love this ad. I was in for him as well. I didn't want to overbid too much, but I think $11 is a great price to get Jeff Wilson, because he did get the lion's share of the backfield for Miami last week. Was somewhat fortunate to get that touchdown. It was a receiving touchdown, a great play by him. But look, whenever you get a player in a high-powered offense that's getting a reasonable number of touches, they're certainly worth rostering on a fantasy team. With Darren Waller, I think at this point he wasn't on IR. I can't quite remember, so I could have stashed him on his reserve if he wanted to. But equally, he's going to miss the next 4 weeks at least. Potentially might not even be back, obviously, for the rest of the LOC season. So, no, I like this ad from Mike. And then we also have Ben Necessities adding Jimmy Garoppolo and dropping the Seahawks defense. Why is this interesting, you ask? Because $20 was spent on Jimmy Garoppolo. Why do people keep spending so much money on Jimmy Garoppolo is my question. Obviously, Ben Necessity needed him while Lamar Jackson was on a bye week this week. But yeah, I don't think I didn't bid on him, so I don't think I would be able to see. But I am going to hang my hat that nobody was spending that much money on Jimmy Garoppolo. I just kind of find it funny how people continue to open the wallet for him for some reason. We'll go on to the standing stats and milestones now. So in the Southampton division, Ixan gets back on the win bus, maintaining their 2-win lead in the Southampton division. Benessessi's and bucking the trend both at 6 and 3, trying to keep pace and obviously keep pace in the wildcard race as well. And then Neapolitans would be leading in the Winchester division, but at the bottom of the Southampton division with the 4 and 5 records. So they could potentially make a late push, but obviously it's getting pretty late in the day for them now. We go to the Portsmouth division. So yeah, go this one. Try and call this one for the end of the season. So Gridiron Gang move up from 3rd to 1st in the division after their big week in the high scoring points of the week at 6 and 3. Both Bedetnes and Forge Flyers are also 6 and 3. I'm just about leading up over Bedetnes, who's 941 points. I'm at 945, but then Chris is a bit further behind us at 839. And then you've got Viv there at the bottom with 3 and 6. Again, he's just had an awful rub of it. He's had 880 points so far this season, so still alive when it comes to that points forward wildcard. But yeah, again, it's looking pretty bleak at the moment for Viv, unfortunately. And then we go to the Winchester division. Pat Stan leading that up at 3 and 6. With your goal right behind him. The points lead in this division, Pat's points lead is 775 against Ollie Gardner's 647. So yeah, less said about that the better. Ross is right behind them at 2 and 7, and he does have the superior points at the moment at the 782, so that could be crucial. And then Tom Sirens at the bottom, they're 1 and 8, only 2 games behind in the division, 5 games left to go. So absolutely still wide open this division. In terms of most points forward, I was wrong when I was doing the recap. So my team is now the highest scoring team in the league, 945. As I say, with Ollie right behind at 941, and then Ben Necessity's there at 927. No other teams over 900 points there. And then it's always fun to look at the other side of the board as well. So if we look at the lowest conceded teams, bucking the trends, only conceded 701 so far this season. Has had 781 points forward, so that's obviously helped them to get to the 6 and 3 record. Chris's team as well, also 6 and 3, only 705 against versus their 839 forward. So those are the two lowest conceding teams in the league. And then you look at the flip side of that. So we'll start off with the Southampton division. Neapolitans, as I say, they're at the bottom of that division. Unfortunately, they've not been that bad. Points forward, 827, it's not bad, but they've had 904 points dropped on them. They're one of the 2 teams that's had over 900, the other being Viv, as I say, in that Portsmouth division. Their points forward, not bad at all, 880, but yeah, when you take 955 going the other way, it's obviously really tough to overcome. And then you look at the Winchester division, again, we like to rag on the Winchester division, like, the teams aren't that great, but all of them have conceded over, the lowest conceder is 843 points. You look at the other divisions, there's a fair number of teams who have only conceded 700 or something, so they really have had quite a bad rub of it, I suppose. But yeah, clearly there's obviously not a lot of points forward in that division either, so yeah, that's obviously not helping. You look at the overall picture, so for the playoffs right now, it would be Ixan, Gridiron Gang and Pakistan as the division leaders. Then you would have Bedetnes as the traditional wildcard, and Bet Necessities would be the points forward wildcard if it ended today. Looking at the breakdown, Gridiron Gang back at the top of this metric after their 11-0 week, 68-31. Not far off Bedetnes, who had a 10-1 week. Again, you can just see in the breakdown there, other than that 5 and 6 week, they have been either 11-0 or 10-1 since week 4. That is insane. 65-34, and this one's really good for them. Bet Necessities there at 64-35. Obviously, they've been one of the best teams as well. Ixan and the Dream Team. Now you got to feel for Viv here, being in this kind of category with these kind of teams, 16-39. The disparity between the records is really unfortunate for Viv, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Then you've got the middle ground of Chris has kind of slipped into the negatives here at 49-50. Obviously, he was leading the division, tied lead for the division still, but 2-9 week last week obviously dropped him down there. Then you have the usual suspects here at the bottom. Mike's team as well, obviously with the low points against is 43 and 56 as well. So he is somewhat unfortunate, which this seems to happen to Mike more often than not, funnily enough. Looking at the coach rankings, so Ben Assistis, Bedetnes, Forge Flyers will remain at the top. Obviously, where we're in the bye weeks and injuries and stuff, some of that is influenced by a lack of depth, but that's just how it goes. Not much movement at the bottom there either. Obviously, we can see that most of the, in fact, all of the Winchester division is in the bottom half of this metric. With two of them being the bottom 2 positions. So obviously some of these wins are self-inflicted, as we say. Throw that all together, and it's pretty much as you would expect in terms of the true power in the league. Looking at other milestones that have gone on, so I've one that's kind of interesting. Tom, don't know if you're listening or going to listen later, but you are 99 and 99 in terms of win-losses in your overall record. So whatever you do this week decides what club you enter first, so no pressure. And what else did we have here? Coach Lan notched his 75th regular season loss as well. Trade deadline has now passed, so no trade block now, and we saw no trades at the deadline, so I think it was it 3 trades for the year in the end, which all involved my team, obviously selling them off for waiver budget. I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So check out the power rankings when they land. I think Tom said he should be able to get them back out, so they'll probably land at some point this afternoon. We will go to debate corner. John, would you kindly usher us in, please?
Order, 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 order.
Thank you, John. Ever so kind. He's quite enjoying watching Matt Hancock get absolutely trolled and do all the trials on I'm a Celeb. Aren't we all, though, to be quite honest? So the debate corner for this week is, we obviously saw a very, very close matchup last week, that 0.4 differential. I'm pretty sure that is the closest possible points differential you can have, 1 pass yard. I don't know, there might be some other kind of math that could get it to 0.2, not 2 perhaps, I don't know. But that's certainly the closest we've ever seen, short of a tie. Speaking of which, we have seen a tie in the LOC all the way back in 2009, the very first season. And that was before we even had fractional scoring. What a time, right? Yeah, we saw a tie then. Debate corner this week, will we ever see a tie again in the LOC? We've come a lot closer. We've had some really close games, even with the fractional scoring, that absolutely could have ended up with a tie. But it's obviously really hard. There's so many different wildcards, and where it is fractional, it makes it so difficult to have a tie. I don't think we'll ever see a tie again in the LOC. I just think that the fractional scoring makes it so difficult. We obviously see ultra close matchups, but it's the pass yards that make it really difficult, really, because, you know, those need to exactly line up to actually enable, obviously, the other fractional points to happen, because all the other fractional points are only working 0.1. They don't go to the second decimal. So it would be great to see. I'd absolutely love to see it. We've obviously had some really close games where it could have happened. But yeah, I personally don't think we'll see a tie again in the LOC. We'll go on to the Week 10 matchups now, so the Week 10 previews. So on the docket for Week 10 we have Gridiron Gang against the Dream Team, Ben Assisties against Bucking the Trend, Ixan against Napolitans, Fortiflies against Bedetonators, Tom Simonson against Pakistan, and Your Gold against Overcook. Yeah, we go back into the divisions this week, and we are, as I say, in Week 10, absolutely pivotal time of the year. This is the year where it can make all the difference. We see Ixan against Napolitans. A win for Ixan obviously moves them one step closer to playoffs, and another loss for Napolitans probably is getting them closer and closer to being firmly out of the race. Ben Assisties Bucking the Trend, that is a huge matchup. 6-3, it will dictate who can keep up the best with Ben in the division, but also who's going to take a step forward in the wildcard race. Similar thing for Bedetonators, Fortiflies, they're in the Portsmouth division. Depending on the result of the Gridiron Gang Dream Team game, one of those two could take the lead in the division again, but either way, the win obviously keeps them firmly in the playoff race for the wildcard or anything. Otherwise, for Gridiron Gang, obviously a win for me could potentially keep me at the top of the division, or again keep me in that wildcard race. Meanwhile, for the Dream Team, yeah, it's last chance alone if they want to look at in terms of a wildcard position. It's really looking dim, so they've just got to get the points on the board here. But you know, they're only a few games behind in the division as well. Could they perhaps make a late push if there's a collapse between the other teams? Maybe. 3-6, we'll see. And then yeah, the Winchester division, it's all over the place, isn't it? I mean, You Are Gold against Overcook. You Are Gold can keep up or perhaps take the division lead, depending on the Pakistan Tom's Tyrants game over Ross. Meanwhile, if Ross wins, he can level it up at 3-6 for You Are Gold. And then again, as I say, depending what happens in the other game, potentially lead up that division with his points forward. And then Pakistan Tom's Tyrants. Pakistan looking to stay atop this division, needs to get the wins to do that. Tom Tyrants needs to get the wins to pull them back in it. And if they get a win here, potentially only one game behind in the division, which is crazy to say when you're a 1-8 team. So lots of good games on the docket. I have picked Fortiflies against Bedetonators for this week's marquee matchup. So here we go. Forge Flyers take on Bird Detonators in Week 10 of the 2022 LOC Season 5. Games to go, and they all absolutely count for every bit of them. Both these teams 6-3, both looking to either reclaim the lead in the division or keep up in the wildcard race. This is the part of the year where the losses really do sting. The projections have the Detonators taking this one 104 to 88. They already have 19 points on the board, so let's start there. So for the Detonators, let's see in terms of lineup changes. I think the lineup is the same as last week, so they're going with the 30 personnel. Wishbone, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Dante Foreman got them 19 points on Thursday Night Football, so a great start for them. On the other side of the board for Forge Flyers, Trevor Lawrence comes in at quarterback at the moment as Kyler Murray drops to the bench as he may miss the game with a hamstring injury. Let's see what else is different here. I think Colton Sutton comes back from the bye, as does Nick Chubb, sending Kadarius Toney and I think who was their other Gerald Everett to the waiver wire, but Kadarius Toney's on the bench. So Chris is going with the 20 personnel this week: 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time: Forge Flyers are 8-10 against Detonators, so it's a pretty even split. So we'll start off with the Detonators side. I mean, they've been playing absolute fire lately. It's going to be a real tough task ahead, I think, for Chris's team, although he's obviously going to be benefiting from getting some players back from bye and things. Justin Fields against Detroit, that is on paper a dream matchup, and that is at home in Chicago as well. So that's an immediate red flag there for Chris. DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to lock up with J.M. Ramsey, and you know the Cardinals typically suck against the Rams, especially if Murray's not going to be there as well, so could see a bad day for him. Chris Olave, on paper a really good matchup there because the Steelers have been bleeding points to other teams' skill position players. But they do have TJ Watt back, so it's one to watch out for. You know, when your quarterback is Andy Dalton, you know, we'll see. Derrick Henry against Denver, again, they've got a really good run D. Tannehill should be back in this one. That doesn't really change the Titans' MO, though. Obviously, they just want to run the ball. Are they going to be able to against the stout Denver run defense? We will see. I think, you know, Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. A bad game for him is still going to be like 10-12 points, right? So when I'm talking, you know, a bad game, it's not going to be bad, but maybe it does just cap his upside a bit. Obviously, Ollie's gotten off to a great start with Dante Foreman there on Thursday Night Football, the 19 points. He shredded Atlanta both games that he played him this season, which is nice for him. A bit of a revenge because he got cut by the Falcons, I think, in the preseason last year. So good comeback story for him. Travis Etienne, he's obviously been great since taking over the RB1 role for the Jags. The Chiefs, the weakness of their defense is the pass defense, which is obviously very interesting when you see Trevor Lawrence on the other side of the board for Chris. So we'll see what he can do against Kansas City. He is one of those, you know, game flow independent running backs because he catches the ball as well. So again, much like Henry, you got to envision he's at least having a solid day. And then you've got Daniel Carson there, who's been one of the best kickers so far on the Cowboys D against the Packers at the bottom there. So all shapes up nicely for Ollie. On the other side of the board for Chris, yep, Trevor Lawrence. When I was looking at my options of who I might need to stream if Allen doesn't play as well, he was probably my premier one when he was a free agent. So I think that's a good ad by Chris. If you strip out Trevor Lawrence's bad games against top defenses, I think in all but one game he's basically delivered at least 20 fantasy points. And the Chiefs are a good matchup. Jags obviously profiled to be losing in this one, so I think that's a real good stream by Chris. Could it offset Justin Fields? Potentially, we'll see. What else we got? So Colton Sutton's coming into the lineup. He's not been great. It looks like Jerry Jeudy's kind of reasserted some dominance on that wide receiver room. Tennessee does represent a good matchup. Is Russell Wilson and the Broncos offense a bit better coming out of the bye? We'll see. But you know, it's got to be one that Chris isn't entirely confident in. Jalen Waddle, he's absolutely fine. Obviously, that Miami offense is clicking on all cylinders. Alvin Kamara, again, he had a blowout week a few weeks ago, but he's not been amazing. He's been chipping in solid yardage when he plays. Again, like I said, the Pittsburgh defense on paper should be a good one, but getting TJ Watt back, does that make the difference? It's tough to say. He should still do well. Nick Chubb against Miami, forget about it. Nick Chubb is great. He's going to be fine. And then he's got Chase Claypool against Detroit. I see what he's doing because it should be a high-scoring game. You've got Justin Fields on the other side. There's just no guarantee he's going to get the ball. He has been there for another week of learning the playbook, another week of being involved. It shouldn't be on a snap count, as I say. But yeah, it's a complete wild card for Chris. But maybe he's thinking, I need a wild card to give me a chance in this game, which I completely commend that kind of thinking. You look to the bench. The only other option he really has is Kareem Hunt, but you know, Chubb's obviously firmly the lead guy there. Hunt is okay. He'll chip in some yardage, but needs a touchdown to have a decent day. I completely agree with the other guys that he's benched there. Versus Chase Claypool, obviously, yeah, he might put Kyler Murray in. He might not even put him in because he's been pretty dinged up. And as I say, they always suck against the Rams anyway. So, yeah, who am I going for in this one? I think seeing the form that Detonators are in, you'd be an absolute fool not to go with Detonators. Just on the pace that they've been on, I could see this being a worse week for them. But you know, a worse week when you're coming down from 130, 140 points a week is still like 110, 100, right? I could absolutely see Chris getting to that point as well. This is not a firm pick, but you know, gun to my head, I would pick the Detonators to win this one. Helps that they've got the 19 points in the bag as well. We'll go on to our next game then, which goes to the Winchester division, and it features Tom Tyrants against Pakistan. Tom Tyrants face off against Pakistan here in Week 10 of the AOC season. Tom can keep his season alive, perhaps come within one game of the division lead if he wins this one at 1-8, despite coming off the loss last week. Well, Pakistan are winning this one. Maybe gives them a step ahead in the division. We'd have to see what happens in the other game, but it keeps the playoff dream going. They have lost 3 on the trot, however. The projections in this one, at the moment, a shockingly low 71 to 67. So let's take a look down here and see what's driving that. So for Pakistan, he's had a couple of players play as well, I should say. Cordero Patterson and Younghoe Koo. They only got 2 points and 1 point on the Thursday night game. That's really unfortunate for Pat. In terms of lineup changes, Ezekiel Elliott comes into the lineup in favour of Jacoby Myers, who goes on to bye. And apart from that, no other changes. So Pat is going with 20 personnel this week, 2 running back, 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, he has not changed his team yet. He will be dropping Isaiah Likely as he is on a bye, and Deion Jackson to the bench as he's out. Probably in favour of Jonathan Taylor. Seems to be a good move to me. And I would guess one of Brandon Ayuk or Rondale Moore would probably come in. So Tom's going to have the projected lead in this one, I would say. Let's assume he goes receiver. So yeah, probably still going to be running the 3 running backs. Wishbone, 30 personnel against the 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Pakistan are 5-4 against Tom's Tyrants. You'll forgive me for not spending a lot of time probably on this one. Let's start off with Tom's Tyrants as they are projected to win. Tom Brady, Mike Evans playing Seattle at the first game in Munich. Tom Brady has historically been really good in international matchups. I've heard that of a lot of fantasy pundits this week. That means absolutely nothing for this game. I'm sorry, I don't care. Okay, yeah, he's got an opportunity to make history here. I think he could become like the international series passing yards leader and stuff like that. But, you know, it's in Germany. The game is the game, right? Seattle have been a pretty good defense so far, underratedly good team overall. Can they do enough to stifle Brady and Evans? Yeah. Why not? I mean, this Bucs offense has not been great all year long. Why do we suddenly think playing in a different country, or just because it's Tom Brady or whatever, it's going to suddenly turn around? That this team has had so many issues. I can't argue with Tom playing them both. I'd probably take Brady over what's out there on the waiver wire and stuff at the moment. Obviously, Evans is still a good receiver. He doesn't necessarily need them to be a good team to have a good day. But yeah, it's not going to be fun. Tom with confidence entering this one. I'm going to assume that Rondale Moore, Brandon Ayuk come in. You know, they're not the top options in the team. Moore would, on paper, perhaps have the better matchup if Hopkins gets locked up with Ramsey. Ayuk, it's volume from his side, so they're okay plays. Looking at the running backs, I don't know what we're going to get from Raheem Mostert with that split backfield and Jeff Wilson now. He could be annoyingly probably go to not being a very usable fantasy option, despite being a really high-powered Dolphins offense. Probably keeps him in flex consideration, I guess, with the touchdown potential. But yeah, it's a watch out for Tom, and the Cleveland run defense has actually been a pretty good matchup as well. Miles Sanders, solid. Jonathan Taylor, if he comes in, he's got a dream matchup against the Raiders. We don't know what we're going to see from Jeff Saturday. Did they get like a new coach bounce? Do they go back to Matt Ryan instead of Sam Ehlinger? Jeff Saturday already said that they're considering going with a different quarterback, so who knows. And then Harrison Butker against Jacksonville, it's good. And the Packers D against Dallas, not good. I would imagine Tom changes that before the game kicks off as well. We go to the other side of the board. So Pakistan, Justin Herbert. I just don't know. He's bereft of pass weapons. Joshua Palmer's not a bad option. DeAndre Carter's okay. Gerald Alfred's okay. Obviously, you've got Austin Eckler there in the backfield. Does he have this upside? It's hard to see that the San Fran D is a tough D away from home as well. It's not the best going against Tom Brady. I'd probably actually lean say maybe Tom Brady has the better day here, but it's hard to say. Devontae Adams against Indy. They've been a really good pass D so far, but you know, with Renfro and Waller being on IR now, he already had a huge target share anyway. He should have a solid day for Pat. Justin Jefferson, he's going up to Tre'Davious White. His two alpha receivers have really bad matchups this week. Stephon Gilmore and Tre'Davious White. And that's in Buffalo as well, so we'll see what happens there. Elliott, he's a game time decision. I hope Pat sends through a commissioner rule saying that he'll bench Elliott for someone else if he doesn't play, because it's a big risk at the 9:25 a.m. game. Apologies, he's got George Kittle and Curtis Samuel he could pivot to in the primetime games, so I would absolutely go Elliott over those, and if Elliott plays, I think he could have a solid day. Devontae Smith against Washington, again, it's just a toss-up. You just don't know. He's a great receiver, but he's playing behind A.J. Brown and sharing targets with Dallas Goedert on a run-heavy team. He could absolutely blow up. It's a good matchup, really good matchup, in fact, on paper, but it's hard to say. Chiefs against Jacksonville, I like that play as well, home at Arrowhead. Who's going to win this game? Pat had a really good week last week, but that was on the back of Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson blowing up and Patterson having a good day. We've already seen a very slow start here from Pat. I still think Pat could win, but I'm going with Tom's Tyrants. Tom's got his own worries as well. But yeah, 3 points from your kicker and your running back off the bat, it's really not ideal for me. So I think Tom's Tyrants should take this one, and that could make the division very, very, very interesting. Just to circle back, because I forgot to do the injuries and the Forge Flies, but Detonators game, so we'll just do all that. So yeah, Kyler Murray could miss this one with a hamstring injury. Here's a game time decision. I imagine. Well, Chris hasn't messaged through commissioner team change rule, so he might just be rolling with Trevor Lawrence anyway. Based on that hamstring. Clean bill of health there for the Detonators. For Tom's Tyrants, as I say, Deion Jackson is out. No other injury issues there for them. Ezekiel, like I say, that knee injury after the bye, coming back, game time decision still unclear if he's going to play. So we'll go on to the next game then, which is the other Winchester Division game, and features You Are Gold against Overcook. You Are Gold takes on Overcook here in Week 10 of the 2022 LOC season. With a Pakistan loss, You Are Gold could take the lead in this division. Or if Ross wins and Pat loses, Ross could potentially take the lead in this division, depending how the points shake out elsewhere. So really lots to play for this week. Key division week in the Winchester division. Projections do have this one going in favour of You Are Gold, 89 to 87. So let's take a look at the teams. You Are Gold played Marcus Mariota on Thursday Night Football. He got you 22 points. Good start. It's probably the best output Ollie's had in this season, or certainly one of them. Brandon Cooks comes into the lineup. He's still questionable with his wrist injury, but could play. And no other changes there, I believe. So they're going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, Wishbone, and 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Overcook, Ross's team, Dallas Goedert comes into the lineup in favour of Robert Woods. I believe that is the only change. So Ross is rolling with the 11 personnel this week. 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, so You Are Gold here are 4-5 against Ross's team, so it's a pretty close one. Let's start with You Are Gold, as they've got the points in the bag and they are projected to lead. Real good decision to stream Marcus Mariota. Credit to Ollie. I don't think I would have had the stones to do it personally, despite being a fairly good matchup on paper. But 22 points, he's going to be absolutely loving life. I kind of said in the recap last week he needs to get the streaming situation sorted, as trying to find a cornerstone QB at this point of the year is very tough to come by. So yeah, great job by him. Brandon Cooks, I'll have to check what the latest on him is, because it was kind of looking iffy for him to play earlier in the week. He is expected to play, so that would be good, but he hasn't been a great option for Ollie all year long. The Giants have also been a pretty good team defense all year long as well, so we'll see on that one. Pittman, again, on paper, it's a really good matchup, but if it's Sam Ehlinger, even if it's Matt Ryan, does it matter? This guy has not been good all year long. I know it's hard to get away from those high draft picks and those guys that should be getting the high target share and things, but my God, that Colts offense has just been diabolical this year. Dalvin Cook going into Buffalo. It's a tough run defense. We already said in the recap, Dalvin Cook hasn't been one of the cream of the crop first round picks this year. Aaron Jones against the brutal Dallas run defense. Jamal Williams against Chicago. It's in Soldier Field, though. On paper, that they haven't got the best of run defenses. So yeah, it's a bad week for Ollie in terms of matchups, I think. And then you've got Robbie Gould and the Bears defense. Again, why are you playing the Bears D? Get rid of them. Detroit, they're a good offense. Yes, they can have their hiccups, but that game could just be a points fest again. So I don't know. Mariota was giving him a good start. I think he's going to need it, to be quite honest, in this one to have a chance. We'll go over to Ross's team. Kirk Cousins going into Buffalo. Ross, get Dak Prescott into your lineup, please. Do not play Kirk Cousins going into Buffalo. Okay, it's a 6 p.m. game, so he has that going for him. Kirk loves those 6 p.m. games. But yeah, Prescott is just the safer option. Packers defense has not been great. Get them in. Cooper Kupp against Arizona. Cooper Kupp could be without Matthew Stafford. Doesn't matter. Probably not, to be honest. He'll be okay either way. He could have a really good day if Stafford does play. DK Metcalf against Tampa. This Tampa defense is not the formidable defense we've seen, so he could have a good day in Germany. Dallas Goedert against Washington. Again, it's a bit of roulette behind A.J. Brown if anyone's going to turn up for the Eagles, but it's an okay play. Montgomery against the Detroit Lions. On paper, it's a good play, good matchup, bad defense. We know Montgomery's not great, though. Khalil Herbert's the better running back, so we'll see. And then Gabriel Davis, it's looking like Josh Allen should play, so he has that boom potential, but he is just pure boom or bust. We know that. And then you've got Safka up against Seattle. And the Lions D against Chicago, I do not like the Lions D against Chicago here either. That, with the way Justin Fields has been playing. God, this is a horrible game. I'm not going to spend any more time on it than I need to. I'm just going to pick your gold because both these teams have absolute horror matchups, and it's just throw up in your mouth players. No offense, but yeah. I'm going to go with your gold. That feels weird even saying it, to be quite honest. I almost was going to lock Ross's team until I saw it, just based on what I saw from Ollie's team. So that just shows you how I feel about this one. We'll go on to the next game then, which is Gridiron Gang play the Dream Team. Gridiron Gang face off against the Dream Team in Week 10 of the 2022 LOC season. Gridiron Gang looking to stay atop the Portsmouth division. Meanwhile, the Dream Team looking to give themselves one last chance at the traditional wild card. Would pull them back into it potentially with a win here. Gridiron Gang 6-3, Dream Team 3-6. They've lost 2 games in the trot. Meanwhile, Gridiron Gang coming off of a win. The projections do have Gridiron Gang winning this one, 90-74. So let's start on their side. Josh Allen in the lineup at the moment, but obviously we'll have to see what happens come game time with him. Elsewhere, let's see what else. Alan Lazard comes into the lineup for Joe Mixon, who was on a bye. I think that was my only change this week, so I'm rolling with the 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for the Dream Team, Russell Wilson comes into the lineup for Joe Burrow, who goes on to bye. And I think Tony Pollard comes in. He's coming off bye as well, as does Jerry Jeudy, also coming off a bye, sending, I think it might have been 2 waiver wire players actually. Yeah, I don't think they had those players on their roster anymore. So Viv is going with the 10 personnel, 1 running back and 4 wide receivers in this one. The history of this matchup all time, Gridiron Gang are 6-9 against the Dream Team. So let's start off with the Gridiron Gang. Yeah, Josh Allen, if he plays, and if he plays, I assume he's healthy. He should have a good day against Minnesota. This Bills offense has been firing on all cylinders, but it's at home. He should do well. If Josh Allen doesn't go or doesn't start, I've got Daniel Jones on the bench. He's playing Houston at home. Houston have been fairly tough on quarterbacks, but he does have that rushing floor, and they sucked against the run game. So it's a middling option. I'm making no bare bones about that. But yeah, it's a fallback for me. I'm hoping Josh Allen obviously plays. Travis Kelce, solid. Jacksonville, yep, it's fine. Alan Lazard, tough matchup against Dallas. Trayvon Diggs, but they do give up some points to receivers there. Obviously, with Romeo Doubs being out, he's been Rodgers' favourite target all year long, so I'm hoping more of the same. Terry McLaurin, again, tough matchup. Eagles D has been pretty good. They've got Jahan Dotson back, so that could disseminate the targets a bit more than it has done, or it could bring a bit more attention away from McLaurin. Hard to say. Obviously, Heineke, We've seen the impact of Heineke coming back in for McLaurin and the Commanders in general. He does like McLaurin a lot, so it's an okay play. I'm not in love with it. Joshua Palmer again. I'm going with the volume plays here. He's going to be the top receiver again with the Chargers, as Mike Williams and Allen are out, but it is a tougher matchup against San Francisco. And then Kenneth Walker against Tampa Bay in Germany. The Tampa Bay run defense is not but what it has been in previous years, so he should be on course for hopefully a solid day here as well. And then Tyler Bass and the Eagles D against said Washington team at the bottom there as well. So I think a solid lineup for my team this week, but yeah, I don't think I see quite the upside of what I did last week. Looking to the other side of the board for the Dream Team then, Russell Wilson. It's a bold play. I like it. As I said earlier, when looking at Chris's team in the recap, you go with the high upside play. It could blow up in your face. But, you know, if you go with the high upside play and it comes off, it's obviously much more impactful than playing the floor play and them having a decent game. We'll see what this Denver offense looks like now coming out of the bye. Is Russell a bit healthier? Does he play a bit better? Who knows? Against Tennessee, it's an okay matchup, so we'll see what happens. That one's Stephon Diggs. Obviously, would be great for him if Josh Allen plays. Probably still going to have a decent day if he doesn't, though. It's a revenge game for him, let's not forget as well. So he'll be okay. DJ Moore, he only got 2.9 points on that Thursday night game, so it's a tough start for him. Allen Robinson, he needs Stafford to play. I think they have a decent game in this one. If Stafford does not play, that makes it a real tough sell. Allen Robinson for me, despite them playing in a good matchup in a team they own against the Cardinals. Tony Pollard against Green Bay. Pollard's been good. He's been a flex guy all year long. Obviously, he would be elevated into RB1 territory if Elliott were to miss the game. To be honest, Elliott, I doubt is going to see his full complement of snaps, probably, even if he does play. So Elliott's probably, Pollard's probably still a pretty good play here as well. And then Jerry Jeudy, I kind of mentioned about Russell Wilson. If the offense is clicking, Jerry Jeudy could have a good day. Russ does like throwing to Jerry Jeudy, it seems, so, and it is a good matchup for receivers as well. So, then Viv has the Jason Myers, the Seahawks kicker, and the Bills D against Minnesota, which is, I think, I'm okay. We've seen this Minnesota team not necessarily firing on all cylinders. Who's going to win this game? It's a very wide point disparity. I'm not as confident in my team as the projections have it. Fantasy Pros is the same. I think there are definitely some things to like about Viv's team. Yes, last week was a bad week, but he's shown what his team can do at times. And my team, I've got some real bad matchups. Obviously, I might be without Josh Allen. I really don't know where to go on this one. I think I'm going to go with my team. There's just more overall solid guys, more guys that should have that stable level of floor. I've obviously got some guys that could have blow up weeks as well. It should be a real good matchup for this one for the positive division, but yeah, I'm just going to lean my team. Just covering back the injuries in this game and the last game, so yeah, I already mentioned about Josh Allen, I won't cover any more on him. Mike Williams also already been ruled out, with his high ankle sprain, and no other injuries there for Viv, so we'll just go back to the other game. Brennan Cook's questionable with that wrist injury. He should play. Mark Andrews on a bye, so don't need to worry about that. So nothing else there. So we'll go on to the Southampton division games to wrap up week 10 then. So we'll start off with bare necessities. Bare necessities take on bucking the trend here in week 10 of the 2022 LOC season. Both these teams looking to keep up in the wildcard race, both 6-3, so whoever gets the win here moves that one step closer to punching their ticket to the playoffs. The projections have that going in favour of bare necessities and a 2-game win streak, 99-89. Mike's also come off a win. Looking down the lineups, Jeremy Garoppolo comes in for Lamar Jackson, who was on a bye, and then I think the rest of the lineup is unchanged there, so bare necessities going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board, for bucking the trend, Deontay Johnson comes into the lineup, he comes back from bye. Saquon Barkley comes in as well. I think he comes back from bye. So they are going with the 30 personnel as well. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, bare necessities are 2-3 against bucking the trend. Let's start with bare necessities. Jimmy Garoppolo, I obviously streamed him when Josh Allen was on his bye. That's pretty solid play. Chargers D isn't great. So he'll be good probably to get you 15 to 20 points, maybe a little more, we'll see, as long as McCaffrey doesn't start vulturing the touchdowns away from him. Chris Godwin against Seattle and Fournette against Seattle. Again, I just don't love these Bucks. I don't care, it's in Germany. They've not been playing well. Seattle have been playing well. Yeah, Godwin, a lot of the fantasy analysts seems to be thinking this is the week for Godwin to play well. Could well be. I'll believe it when I see it though, because this Bucks offense, just use your eyes, it's just not been great. AJ Brown against the Washington Commanders though, that is great. Really good in fact. He's been solid and yeah, gets a great matchup. Eckler against San Fran, it's a harder matchup, but the type of running back he's that jitterbug, elusive back. They use him in the pass and the run game. Eckler's going to be solid. Damian Pierce against the Giants, on paper not a great matchup. I think their run defense is okay, but Texans obviously love to run the ball, so Pierce does have that floor, so he should have a solid day there as well. That guy against Arizona, whether Stafford does or doesn't play, I think that's probably a good play, to be honest. And then the 9D against the Chargers, not in love with that, but the Chargers are not fully healthy, obviously. The 9D is good. They're at home, so it's okay. Going to the other side of the board then, so Tua Tagovailoa against Cleveland, fine, great. He's going to smash. It's a great offense. Deontay Johnson against New Orleans, coming out the bye. He's another one of these Chris Godwin types who hasn't lived up to the billing so far, but he's getting the targets and everything, just hasn't had the touchdowns and whatnot. I don't know. Saints defense is okay. What are we going to see from the Steelers offense? Who knows? Amon-Ra St. Brown against Chicago. If he's healthy, I think he has a great day here against Chicago. They really need him to be one of the focal points of his offense. Barkley against Houston. They're going to ride Barkley to the cows come home against Houston here to hopefully bring home the win. Jacobs against Indianapolis. Coming into the season a bit like the Bucks, Indianapolis thought one of the best run defenses in the league. Hasn't been the case. The matchup isn't that bad. With how many passing game pieces the Raiders are missing, they're going to want to lean on Josh Jacobs. I think that's where they were playing really well earlier as well, a few weeks ago. So I think he can probably have a good day. And DeAndre Swift, who knows? It's a lottery ticket. How much work is he going to get? On paper, it's a good matchup. We'll see. I'm not sure. Warlots, yep, that's okay against Pittsburgh. And then the Bucks D against Seattle. Not in love with that either. Really not in love with that. Seattle's been pretty good. Bucks D hasn't been amazing. So, who knows? Who am I picking in this game? It's a tough one. Both teams have things I like. Both have things I don't like. I think you've got to go with bare necessities. They've been the team all year long, right? They've scored all these points. So I think it's hard to go against them here. Mike's team definitely has a potential to go off. But they've got some real nice players. In fact, Mike does have some real nice players. Health has been their issue. It's been a shame for him in that front. But hey, he's still 6-3. He's still in the mix. But I'm just going to go with bare necessities in this one. Injury-wise, clean bit of health for bare necessities. Keenan Allen already been ruled out with his injury, and Romeo Dobbs out with that high ankle sprain as well. So we'll go on to the last game of the weekend, which sees Ixan play Neapolitans. Ixan take on Neapolitans here in the final game of Week 10 of the 2022 LOC season. Ixan 8-1, looking to make one more step towards the playoffs. You know, Neapolitans up 4-5. It's the last chance Saloon to stay up in the wildcard race, really. You know, could they upset Ixan? Who knows? We'll see. The projections don't have it going that way. Ixan 98-85. Both these teams coming off a win. Neapolitans coming in off of 2. So starting with Ben's team, let's see. Take a look down the lineup here. So I think Amari Cooper comes back from the bye, as does Deebo Samuel, I believe, and Christian McCaffrey. So a few changes in that sense. Mecole Hardman, Antonio Gibson, and I think a waiver player who they were playing last week to the bench. So he's going with the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. For Neapolitans, let's see here. So I think only Najee Harris is the only change here, coming in for T. Higgins, who goes on to bye. Harris coming off bye. So Neapolitans is going with the 11 personnel here. 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Ixan are 2-0 against Neapolitans. Neapolitans did have a player play on Thursday night. It was Kyle Pitts. He only got 2.8 points, though. So let's start off with Ixan. Patrick Mahomes against Jacksonville. Forget about it. Absolutely fine. Don't need to say anything there. Amari Cooper's been great. He's been a good pickup for Ben. Good draft pick, sorry. Against Miami, it's such a good matchup as well. So that's absolutely fine. Deebo Samuel against the Chargers. He's going to lose a bit of work, obviously, with McCaffrey being there now, but he's still the top receiver here on paper. Chargers haven't been the most formidable defense, so I think that's good as well. Tyler Lockett against Tampa. Love it. Tampa haven't been great. As I say, Lockett's probably been the better receiver between him and Metcalf, where Gino's been playing really well, so that's good as well. James Conner against the Rams. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. Couldn't hate it more if I tried. I don't think it matters whether they have Kyler Murray or not. the Rams do just going to, crush this Cardinals team. They always crush the Cardinals. Don't like that play. McCaffrey against the Chargers, though, I do love that. I don't think, Ben doesn't really have another option on the bench, so he probably will just go with Connor, but set up for a real nice day. Playing the Cardinals against LA, I get it. I really do get it. What did the Cardinals do against the Rams the first time around? Because and that was at home. We know it's a widely known fact the Rams crushed the Cardinals. They got 5 points last time around. Yeah, I'm not liking that. I don't care if they've got a backup quarterback in the center. Got Brett Maher against the Packers. I do like that though. On the other side of the ball for the Napolitans, let's see, Jalen Hurts against Washington. Yep, that's good. They curb stomped the Commanders last time they played, and that was at FedEx Field. So at home should be the case here. Tyreek Hill against Cleveland, love it. Christian Kirk against KC. Pass defense is their weakness. Profile to be losing in this game, so he should have a busy day. Juju Smith-Schuster against Jacksonville. Again, it's a fairly good matchup. He's become more of a involved in this offense as the weeks have gone on. Obviously, Kyle Pitts only getting 2.8 points is a bit of a kick in the teeth there on Thursday Night Football. Najee Harris against New Orleans, hate it. There's talk of Jalen Warren obviously taking over more of the work there. He's been really inefficient, not been great all season long. Don't like that play so much. Then he's got Randy Bullock against Denver. Yeah. I guess it's a good play. Denver's a pretty good defense, so he's hoping for the stalls in Denver's half and going for the field goals. And then Dolphins against Cleveland, again, I don't. We say it every week, and Dave doesn't seem to understand why we say it, but we don't understand the loyalty to the Dolphins defense. They had, to be fair, they had a fairly good day in Chicago last week, but you can see, they're not typically a great unit. They should be okay, I guess, but no exciting feelings against them. Who am I going to pick in this one? I've not used the lock, so I'm going to use the lock here either way. I'm going to go with Ixan. They've been, they're 8-1. They're 8-1 for a reason. They've got a good team. Outside of James Conner, I pretty much like everything. James Conner and the Cardinals D, I like pretty much everything that Ixan has to offer this week. So it's a win in my books, but Napolitans have some real good players as well. They've got a few good matchups too, so I could absolutely see them making it interesting. They haven't got quite the same level of star power and solidity that Ixan do though, so that's why I'm locking up Ixan for this week. Injury-wise, Michael Hardman already been ruled out. I think it's like an abdominal groin issue for him. Clean bill of health for both teams. Other than that, and that brings us to the end of the show. Apologies for being a solo edition. Hopefully it was still entertaining. I don't quite have the same color commentary skills that Chris does, but hopefully you enjoyed it all the same. It is Sunday. Obviously enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye, everybody.